The universe holds a secret that few have discovered, but that changes everything when revealed. In every moment of your life, you are immersed in an invisible, moldable, and infinitely powerful substance. This substance is waiting for only one thing: your conscious command. Does it seem too simple to be true? This is exactly why so many remain trapped in circumstances they detest. The truth is rarely complicated. It is our resistance to accepting it that creates the complexity. Wallace D. Wattles, one of the greatest prosperity teachers ever known, revealed more than a century ago what modern science is only beginning to understand. He wrote, "There is a thinking matter of which all things are made, and which, in its original state, pervades, penetrates, and fills the interstices of the universe." This is not some vague spiritual theory. It's a truth as real as gravity, but infinitely more liberating. The formative substance is like an infinite ocean in which we are all constantly immersed. Every breath you take, every movement you make, happens within this substance. And the most extraordinary thing, this substance responds to your thoughts. While most people drift adrift in this ocean, being carried by random currents of circumstance, some have discovered how to navigate it intentionally. The difference is not in who had access to this substance. We all have it in equal measure. The difference lies in who knows who can command it. Imagine for a moment that every thought you have is a command being issued to this intelligent substance. Now consider the quality of the thoughts that occupy your mind daily. Are they clear commands of prosperity, health, and happiness? Or are they confusing signals of worry, scarcity, and doubt? The formative substance does not judge your thoughts. She simply obeys them, translating them into physical manifestations with impeccable precision. If your current reality doesn't reflect your deepest desires, it's not because the substance has failed. It's because the commands you issued were confusing or contradictory. Wattles understood that there is a crucial difference between wanting something and commanding something. Desiring arises from the feeling of lack. Commanding emerges from inner certainty. The formative substance responds to command, not desire. What makes this discovery so revolutionary is its universality. It doesn't matter your background, social status, age, or current circumstances. The formative substance responds to the commands of anyone who understands its laws of operation. This knowledge is not guarded by any elite. It is available to everyone who is willing to study and apply it. Perhaps you have experienced moments when your thoughts seem to materialize almost magically. A clear desire followed by a series of coincidences that brought him exactly what he visualized. These were not fortuitous accidents. They were perfect demonstrations of the formative substance responding to a clear command without contradictions. The question then becomes, how can we issue consistent, clear, and powerful commands to this substance? How can we align with its laws of operation to deliberately create the circumstances we desire to experience? The formative substance is not just a passive field of energy. She possesses an inherent intelligence that responds accurately to the mental commands she receives. Think of it as the most sophisticated responsive system ever created, infinitely more advanced than any human technology. A modern analogy would be to compare the formative substance to a celestial 3D printer. Just as a 3D printer transforms a digital design into a physical object, formative substance transforms your thoughts into tangible reality. The crucial difference is that this cosmic printer requires no external hardware. It operates directly through your consciousness. The thinking substance moves according to your thoughts. Every form and process you create in your mind is imprinted on this substance and creates the form. Wrote Wattles, this statement, considered mystical in its time, today finds fascinating parallels on the frontiers of quantum physics. Scientists observe how subatomic particles appear to respond to the observer's intention. The famous double-slit experiment demonstrated that mere observation affects how particles behave. What science is beginning to validate, Wattles already understood through intuition and observation. Reality responds to consciousness in a fundamental way. Have you ever noticed how certain people seem to consistently attract specific experiences? Some attract harmonious relationships wherever they go. Others find financial opportunities in any circumstance. Still others seem to repeatedly encounter challenges and obstacles. These are not coincidences or matters of luck. They are precise manifestations of the dominant commands that these people issue to the formative substance. The substance responds not only to conscious thoughts, but also, and perhaps mainly, to subconscious mental patterns. Your habitual vibration, the one you maintain without effort or reflection, is the most powerful command you continually issue. Think about how virtual reality creates entire worlds out of code. The formative substance works in a similar way, but the code is your thoughts, beliefs, and expectations. Just as a virtual reality programmer can alter the entire environment by changing a few lines of code, you can transform your experience by changing the mental patterns you emit. Here is the most extraordinary part. The formative substance does not run out. It is infinite in its potential and inexhaustible in its capacity. When Wattles states that the original substance is alive with creative energy, he is describing a limitless source of possibilities. Stop for a moment and notice any physical object near you. This object started as a thought in someone's mind. Someone imagined it, conceived its details, planned its creation. The formative substance responded to these thoughts, organizing itself into the physical form you now see and can touch. The same process happens with the circumstances of your life. Your financial situation, relationships, health, environment all began as thought patterns that the formative substance obediently manifested. If you have unconsciously created circumstances that you do not want, you can consciously recreate them through the same process. The intelligent nature of the substance allows it to find infinite ways to manifest what you command. It knows no limitations of how or when. It only responds to the what that you clearly define. This is why forcing results through excessive effort often fails, while commanding clearly and then allowing the intelligence of the substance to work often produces results that exceed your expectations. There are 3 distinct levels through which you command formative substance, each operating at its own vibrational frequency, thought, word, and action. Harmony between these 3 levels is essential for consistent results. When they align, their command for formative substance becomes irresistible. The first level is thinking. Your thoughts are the subtlest level of command, but don't confuse subtlety with weakness. Thought is the initial spark, the seed of all creation. Wattles insisted that thinking a certain way is the first step to all manifestation. Your thinking must be clear, focused, and maintained with calm persistence. Most people think reactively, allowing external circumstances to determine their internal mental patterns. Your thoughts swing like a pendulum, moving between momentary hope and habitual doubt. This erratic pattern confuses the formative substance, which needs clarity to respond accurately. Coherent thinking is a powerful command. When you hold a consistent vision in your mind without contradicting it with doubts, you are communicating directly with the intelligence of the formative substance. Think of your thought as the initial outline you present for this substance. The clearer and more detailed, the more precise the manifestation will be. The second level is the word. What you declare out loud amplifies and solidifies the command of thought. Your words are the audible expression of your mental patterns and carry a denser vibration than thoughts. The word spoken with conviction sends waves of command into the formative substance. Observe carefully how you talk about your life, your projects, your possibilities. Many people sabotage their own mental commands through contradictory verbal statements. They think about prosperity, but constantly talk about financial limitations. They visualize health, but talk extensively about illnesses and concerns. The word aligned with the thought doubles its commanding power. When you declare out loud, with calm certainty, the same thing you mentally visualize, you are operating onto harmonic levels of creation. The third level is action. This is the densest and most physical level of command. Action is not about forcing results, but about moving in alignment with what you think and declare. Wattles called this acting a certain way, an action that flows naturally from inner certainty, not desperate effort. Truly powerful action comes not from struggle, but from inspiration. When your thoughts and words are aligned with your command for formative substance, you will naturally feel driven to take certain actions. These will not seem like sacrifices, but natural and even inevitable steps. Many people issue contradictory commands across these 3 levels. They think about abundance, but they talk about scarcity. They declare their intentions, but act with hesitation or fear. This inconsistency neutralizes your own creative power. To effectively command the formative substance, you must cultivate coherence between thought, word, and action. This aligned triad creates a unified command that the formative substance cannot ignore. It is like playing a perfect chord that resonates throughout the entire field of intelligent substance. The good news is that you don't have to start with perfection at all three levels. Start by adjusting your thoughts. As your mental patterns become clearer and more consistent, your words will naturally begin to reflect this clarity. With thoughts and words aligned, your actions will flow with increasing naturalness in the same direction. This process of alignment between the three levels of command is not something you achieve once. It is a continuous practice, a constant refinement. Over time, you will develop an increasing sensitivity to detecting when you are issuing contradictory commands, allowing you to quickly correct your course. The formative substance responds to a specific language, not the Portuguese language, English, or any human language, but the universal language of creative consciousness. This language has 5 essential elements: clarity, certainty, positive emotion, anticipated gratitude, and detachment. When you communicate using these 5 elements, the formative substance responds with remarkable precision. Clarity is the first element of this language. The formative substance cannot respond to vague or confusing commands. I want to be more prosperous is a vague command that will produce vague results. I am receiving 15,000 reals monthly through my business that benefits others is a clear command. That substance can translate into specific reality. Wattles emphasized the importance of forming a clear mental image of what you want to create. This picture does not need to include the mechanisms of how the manifestation will occur, just the desired end result. The intelligent substance takes care of the how, responding to the clarity of your what. Certainty is the second element. The formative substance does not respond to hopes, desires, or supplications. She responds to unshakable conviction. Notice how the great spiritual teachers throughout history did not pray for results, they declared results with absolute certainty. Jesus did not say, "Please God, heal this man if it is possible." He declared, "Arise and walk with calm authority." This certainty is not arrogance. It is the recognition of the natural functioning of the formative substance. Wattles explained that the faith and purpose of your mind form the channel, along which the principle of life flows to manifest your desire. Positive emotion is the third element. The formative substance responds to the vibrational frequency of your feelings. When you combine clear thinking with intense positive emotion, you create an irresistible command. Joy, gratitude, love, and enthusiasm are powerful accelerators of manifestation. Many people visualize their goals, but they do so with a sense of anxiety or desperate urgency. These negative emotions contradict the command and confuse the substance. Visualizing with calm, confident joy is infinitely more powerful. Anticipatory gratitude is the fourth element. This is one of the deepest secrets revealed by Wattles. He instructed his students to give thanks for the desired manifestation as if it were already present. This is not an exercise in self-deception, but a recognition of the timeless nature of the formative substance. When you give thanks in advance, you are declaring to the formative substance that manifestation is already complete on the non-physical plane. This act of anticipated gratitude creates a bridge between the invisible and the visible, accelerating physical materialization. Detachment is the fifth element. It seems contradictory, but the more you desperately cling to a result, the more you communicate a lack of formative substance. Detachment does not mean indifference. It means absolute confidence that your command has been received and is being processed by universal intelligence. Wattles expressed it masterfully. You cannot impress your will upon the formative substance in the same way that you impress your will upon other men. That is why you must not attempt to project your will or mental force upon things. The formative substance has its own natural will and will only respond to those who are in harmony with it. To practice this language that substance understands, try reframing your habitual desires. Instead of "I hope I get that contract," state "I receive the contract easily and happily." Instead of "I want to find my ideal partner," say "I attract and am attracted to my ideal partner. In perfect divine timing. Notice how these reward commands incorporate the 5 elements. They are clear, expressed with certainty, not hope, carry positive emotion, include anticipated gratitude, and are offered with confident detachment. This language is not manipulative. You are not trying to control the substance, but rather align yourself with its cooperative nature. The formative substance wants to express itself through you. It only expects you to learn the appropriate language to direct this expression. A few years ago, Martin worked in a small office in the suburbs. His salary only covered the basics, and each month was a struggle to make ends meet. The gray walls of the cubicle seemed to reflect the monotony that had become his life. Martin didn't hate his job that would be too strong a feeling. He simply tolerated it, like someone who tolerates persistent rain without hope of a clear sky. In rare conversations with colleagues over lunch, Martin would occasionally blurt out phrases like "that's just the way things are," or "not everyone can be successful." These were not just words, they were unconscious commands to the formative substance, which faithfully manifested more of the same limiting circumstances. On a random Tuesday, after being ignored in a meeting where his ideas could have made a difference, Martin decided to walk a different route home. That's when he passed a small used bookstore that he had never noticed before. Something in the window caught his eye, an old book with a worn cover, but a still legible title. The Science of Getting Rich by Wattles. Wattles. Martin wasn't the type to believe in mystical coincidences, but something at that moment made him enter the store. "How much does that book in the window cost?" he asked the seller. "3 reis," replied the elderly man. "It's been there for years." Nobody seems interested in old books these days. That night, sitting in his small apartment, Martin began to read. The first few pages made him frown skeptically. It seemed too simple, almost naive. But when he reached the chapter on the formative substance, something changed within him. "There's a thinking matter of which all things are made." Martin read. The idea that this substance would respond to your thoughts and commands seemed absurd at first. However, an inner voice whispered, "What if it's true?" The next morning, Martin woke up before his alarm clock, a rare occurrence. He sat on the edge of the bed and decided to do an experiment. He closed his eyes and visualized himself arriving at work with a sense of purpose and clarity. He imagined opportunities arising naturally. He didn't ask for them to happen. He declared that they were already happening. "The formative substance responds to my command," he said aloud, feeling simultaneously foolish and hopeful. "Today I attract opportunities that move me towards prosperity." Nothing dramatic happened that day. Or the next day, Martin continued his morning practice, alternating between doubt and hope. But at the end of the first week, his manager called him in for an unexpected chat. "We are starting a pilot project," explained the manager. "We need someone with your attention to detail. There's a significant bonus if we meet targets." Martin accepted immediately, remembering his morning statements. Was it a coincidence? Perhaps. But something encouraged him to intensify his practice with the formative substance. Over the next few weeks, Martin refined his command. Instead of vague statements like "I want more prosperity," he established specific mental images. "I am receiving a salary of 12,000 reals per month doing work that fulfills me and benefits others." The hardest part was maintaining certainty when external evidence had not yet materialized. Wattles had explained that to think a certain way meant to hold the thought regardless of appearances. This was Martin's biggest challenge. How can I be sure of something that I don't see yet? He asked himself. The answer came when he understood that certainty was not a reaction to circumstances, but a prior decision. 3 months after starting his practice, Martin was presenting the results of the pilot project to the company's board of directors, something he would never have imagined before. His clarity and confidence, qualities that emerged from his practice with the formative substance, impressed everyone. At the end of the presentation, the operations director invited him to lead a new division at a significantly higher salary. "How did this happen?" asked a colleague, visibly perplexed by his rapid rise. "I changed my commands," replied Martin with a smile, knowing that the explanation would sound strange to those who did not understand how the formative substance works. The most significant transformation however, was not external. It was the change in Martin's internal vibration. The person who previously accepted limitations as an immutable reality now understood his role as commander of the formative substance. Each new positive result reinforced his certainty, creating a virtuous cycle of command and manifestation. 6 months later, Martin had not only tripled his income, but also completely transformed his life experience. I no longer lived according to the end of the month, but according to purpose and meaning. The formative substance responded not only to his commands about material prosperity, but also about relationships, health, and personal growth. The most surprising aspect of her journey was not how much her external life changed, but how these changes occurred with a sense of natural, almost inevitable fluidity. The same results previously sought with exhaustive effort now appeared with harmony and synchrony, often through paths that could never have been consciously planned. The formative substance finds its own way, Martin wrote in his diary. My job is not to force or control the process, but to keep the command clear and allow universal intelligence to do the rest. To work effectively with formative substance, you need to understand the natural cycle of command and reception. This cycle consists of 4 distinct phases: clear visualization, verbal declaration, aligned action, and gratified reception. Each phase amplifies the effect of the previous one, creating a continuous flow of creative energy between you and the formative substance. Clear visualization starts the cycle. Here, you form a definite mental image of what you want to create. This is not a vague fantasy or a passing daydream, but a deliberate contemplation with vivid details. Wattles instructed his students to dedicate time daily to this practice, preferably at moments of greatest mental receptivity, right after waking up or before going to sleep. During visualization, you are literally instructing the formative substance what to manifest. The quality of your visualization determines the accuracy of the manifestation. The clearer, more stable, and more emotionally charged your mental image, the more powerful your initial command will be. Many people find it difficult in this first phase because their minds are saturated with contradictory thoughts. Worries, doubts, and memories of past experiences interfere with the clarity of visualization. The solution is not to force these thoughts to go away. This only intensifies their presence. The effective approach is to gently redirect attention to the desired image, without resisting what arises. The verbal declaration is the second phase of the cycle. Here, you translate your visualization into words spoken with conviction. The spoken word carries a power that silent thought does not possess. When you declare it out loud, you are committing more deeply to your command and amplifying your vibration. Wattles recommended statements in the present tense, speaking as if what was desired was already reality. I am receiving, instead of I will receive, or I want to receive. This language in the present tense communicates to the formative substance that you are temporally aligned with the manifestation, not projecting it into an indefinite future. A common obstacle at this stage is limiting verbal habits. Years of conversations focused on scarcity, worry, and doubt create linguistic patterns that contradict your new commands. Gaining awareness of your habitual words is essential to overcoming this obstacle. When you catch yourself using scarcity language, simply course correct without self-criticism. Aligned action is the third phase of the cycle. Here, you move physically in harmony with your mental and verbal command. This is not an action based on anxiety or fear, but on natural inspiration. Wattles called this acting a certain way, an action that arises from certainty, not despair. When your actions contradict your mental and verbal commands, you are sending mixed signals to the formative substance. For example, visualizing prosperity while avoiding checking your bank balance out of fear is a contradiction. Declaring healthy relationships while tolerating disrespectful treatment is another contradiction. Aligned action does not mean forcing results. It means moving as directed by the inner wisdom that emerges naturally when you are in tune with the formative substance. Often, these actions will seem small, simple, and obvious, but they will have a disproportionate impact because they are in perfect harmony with your command. The gratified reception is the final phase of the cycle. Here, You acknowledge and receive the manifestations with conscious gratitude, completing the cycle and setting the stage for a new, more powerful cycle. Many people fail at this crucial stage because they are so focused on what is not yet manifested that they do not notice or appreciate what has already arrived. The formative substance often responds initially with partial manifestations or preliminary signs. When you acknowledge and are grateful for these early evidences, you communicate to the substance that your command is being received correctly, encouraging fuller manifestations. Resistance to receiving is a common blockage at this stage. This resistance may manifest as a feeling of unworthiness, fear of losing what you have received, or discomfort with the new vibration of prosperity. The practice of conscious gratitude neutralizes this resistance, allowing full reception. As you work with this cycle regularly, it becomes progressively more potent. The time between command and manifestation shortens. The magnitude of the demonstrations increases. Your trust in the formative substance deepens, creating an increasingly fluid relationship between your consciousness and this responsive universal intelligence. The cycle is not linear, but spiral. Each complete turn raises your vibration, allowing for more expansive commands and deeper manifestations. What seemed impossible in the first cycles becomes natural as your consciousness expands. Through this sustained practice, the true code mentioned by Wallace D. Wattles is not an external secret formula, but an internal vibrational pattern that anyone can establish. This code is not something you get, but something you become. It has three essential components that, together, form the key to commanding the formative substance with mastery. The first component is an internal state of calm certainty. This is not a state that you force, but a natural posture that emerges when you deeply understand the nature of the formative substance. It is the calm that comes not from ignorance of challenges, but from the understanding that intelligent substance always finds a way often more elegant than your conscious mind could devise. Wattles emphasized that this certainty must be without anxiety, without haste, and without fear. It is an inner knowing that the universe operates through reliable principles, not by whim or chance. When you establish this state of calm certainty, you are not trying to manipulate reality. You are simply aligning yourself with the natural flow of intelligent substance. Many spiritual seekers attempt to force this state through repetitive affirmations or effort of will, only to discover that these approaches create subtle tension that contradicts the very state they are trying to achieve. The key is to understand that quiet certainty is not something you do, but something you allow. It emerges naturally when you recognize the true nature of reality. The second component of the code is a pattern of thinking based on abundance, not scarcity. This mental pattern recognizes that the formative substance is inexhaustible and infinitely generous. There is no competition for resources at the formative substance level, just different frequencies of reception. Thinking from abundance means recognizing that your prosperity does not diminish the prosperity of others. In fact, it often increases it. It means understanding that apparent limitations are generally mental constructs, not absolute realities. This thinking pattern does not deny challenges or obstacles, but rather views them from a different perspective. An obstacle is no longer a block, but an invitation to expand your awareness and find creative solutions. A limitation is no longer a final sentence, but a temporary boundary waiting to be transcended. The third component of the code is a mode of action that flows without forced effort. This is not a state of passivity or laziness, but of maximum efficiency. It is movement that rises from inner inspiration, not external pressure. It is action motivated by creative joy, not fear or obligation. Wattles described this mode of action as doing all you can do each day, but doing it without rush, worry, or fear. This approach seems to contradict the prevailing work ethic that glorifies exhaustive effort and constant busyness. However, experience proves its superior effectiveness. When you operate in this mode of fluid action, you accomplish more with less effort. Your intuition sharpens, guiding you towards actions with the greatest impact. Synchronicities increase, bringing resources and opportunities at the perfect time. Resistance decreases, allowing movement without unnecessary friction. These three components: quiet certainty, abundant thought, and fluid action together form the code that activates the full response of the formative substance. They are not techniques that you apply occasionally, but a way of being that you cultivate consistently. Sarah, an entrepreneur who consciously applied this code, transformed her small consulting business into an international company in just 2 years. What was most notable was not the expansion itself, but the way in which it occurred. It wasn't an uphill battle, she explained. It was a series of doors opening, one after another, many of which I didn't even know existed before. Michael, an artist who had struggled for decades to survive financially, discovered this code at age 53. In 18 months, he not only tripled his income, but expanded his creative expression in ways he previously considered impossible. The change was not in technique, he reflected, but in the consciousness from which I created. Elena, a single mother facing chronic financial challenges, initially applied this code with skepticism. It started small, commanding formative substance to solve immediate problems. As his confidence grew, he expanded his commands. In 3 years, he not only achieved financial stability, but created a legacy for his children. I stopped seeing myself as a victim of circumstances, she shared, and recognized myself as a partner in the smart substance. These stories are not exceptions or anomalies. They are natural demonstrations of what happens when a human being consciously aligns himself with the laws of formative substance. The code doesn't just work for a privileged few. It works for anyone who applies it with understanding and consistency. The most revolutionary thing about this code is its simplicity. It does not require special instruments, complex initiations, or intermediaries. It is available directly between you and the formative substance that permeates the entire universe. It is your birthright as a creative being, regardless of your current circumstances, background, or apparent limitations. You have reached a point of choice. What Wattles revealed the code to. Command the formative substance is not just information to contemplate passively, it is a call for conscious transformation. The formative substance has always responded to your commands, conscious or unconscious. Every current circumstance in your life, from the most challenging to the most rewarding, was created through this constant dialogue between your consciousness and intelligent substance. The difference now is that you can take deliberate control of this dialogue. You can choose the commands you issue through your thoughts, words, and actions. You can cultivate the 3 components of the code: quiet certainty, abundant thought, and fluid action, not as occasional techniques, but as a way of life. This is the moment of decision. Will you continue to allow unconscious habitual commands to determine your circumstances? Or will you assume the stance of a conscious creator, issuing clear and aligned commands for the formative substance? Get started right now. Close your eyes for a moment and formulate a clear command to the smart substance. Not a request or desire, but a statement of truth. Issue this command out of quiet certainty, not desperate need. Feel the difference between I want prosperity and I am prosperity in increasing expression. Between I hope to find solutions and I attract perfect solutions in divine timing. Between I desire health and I embody radiant vitality in every cell. Your next step is simple but powerful. Dedicate time daily to issuing clear commands. To the formative substance, this is not a complicated ritual. It's just 5 to 10 minutes of conscious communion with the universal intelligence that responds to your thoughts during the day. Remain aware of the commands you usually issue. When you notice limiting patterns, don't fight them with resistance. Simply redirect your attention to the desired command, allowing the new frequency to naturally replace the old. As manifestations begin to emerge initially as subtle synchronicities, and inner inspirations acknowledge them with conscious gratitude, each recognition communicates to the formative substance that you are receiving its response, opening the way for fuller manifestations. The journey you begin is not linear, but spiral. Each cycle of command and manifestation takes you to higher levels of creative expression. What seems miraculous at first becomes your natural experience. As you become familiar with the laws of formative substance, always remember, you are not trying to manipulate an external force. You are reconnecting with the creative intelligence of which you have always been an individualized expression. The formative substance is not separate from you, it is the very essence from which your consciousness emerged. This is your birthright as a consciously creative being. It is not reserved for the enlightened or privileged few. It is yours, here and now, awaiting only your recognition and conscious command. The formative substance obeys your commands. He always obeyed. You will always obey. The only question is, what commands will you choose to issue from this moment on? The decision is yours, and the entire universe awaits your answer.